So today we're going to talk about the US visa interview. In this video, I am going to make it easier for you to show up for your interview, show up with confidence, and then hopefully, succeed, in your visa application. So I'm going to be reading some of the questions that I do get from my viewers, and I hope that you will learn a thing or two from watching this. Now, don't just watch it, share it with someone, and then also hit the like button if it helped you, or subscribe to my channel if you want to see more videos like this. I promise you, I give you good value, for your time. So let's get to it. This person says, how many months bank statements do I need to show for my B1, B2 visa? Now, generally, you're not required, like your B1, your interview is going to last, for 5 minutes or less. It seldom goes beyond that time. So the interviewing officer would not have the time to go through the documents that you have on you. It's only maybe when they're in doubt, or maybe they're also trying to get answers to, questions, they would ask you for those documents. But I assure you, 9 out of 10 times, they will not ask for any documents. Most times, even 10 out of 10 times. And so there's been an instance where someone attended an interview, did not have their bank statement, and the embassy told them, go ahead, we would, if you can get your bank statement before close of business, come back and let me look at it. Because they wanted to be sure that the person had money. And so they gave the person a note, go get your bank statement from your bank and then return by this time. But that's in very rare circumstances. So what am I trying to say? The embassy is not going to ask you for your bank statement. But in case you think, okay, you need to go with your bank statement, just in case they require, I would say stick with the 6 months. 6 months, most embassies would always ask you for 6 months generally. So you would stick with the 6 months. Now, it doesn't mean if you go with 3 months, you might not be accepted. But just to ensure that you err on the side of caution, go with 6 months, But I assure you, 9 out of 10 times, they will not request for any documents from you. This person says, I am single and engaged, but in the application form, it is either you feel single or married. But during the interview, can I still go ahead and tell them that I am engaged? Can I put on my engagement ring, show it to them, show them a pre-wedding photo or wedding invitation card to show as evidence I am going for a conference? You can go ahead and select that you're single. And then when you show up for the interview, yes, you can mention that you are engaged. Now, if you do have a wedding date, if your wedding date has been fixed or a period, you can go ahead and volunteer that information. There's nothing wrong with that. So yes, you should include in your visa application form that you are single. But when you show up for your interview, you should volunteer that information that you are actually engaged, I made a mistake in my application forms and it's already been submitted. Can I apply again and correct this mistake? Or will it raise a lot of questions? And I already have a date for the interview. The problem with making errors in your visa application form, particularly with the DS-160, is because once you submit, you can no longer make any changes to it. The reason why it is tricky is because if you have paid your visa fee, you would realize that your appointment and schedule an appointment, you will realize that your appointment actually has your the number, the barcode, the number that was assigned to your DS-160 form. So if you have a separate, if you do have a separate form, it means that you have to amend the number on your appointment confirmation. Now, why is it important? When you book your appointment, now you'll be required to include the number that was indicated on your visa application form. Now, that is also to help the visa officer, pull up your record, when you attend, that interview or when you're scheduled for the interview, because it just points them to the correct form. If you have made an error, if you think that it is a minor error, you can let it slide. But if it is a major error and you think it would affect the outcome of your visa application, then yes, you can change your appointment confirmation, get another appointment, and by this time complete a different visa application form and ensure that the number on the appointment confirmation has the amended or the corrected visa application form that you have already completed. So I hope that helps. Now, the embassy would advise you to complete a different form if the one you completed before is older than 6 months. And of course it makes sense because they understand that in 6 months a lot could have changed. Maybe you had a trip planned for maybe in 4 months or in 3 months, and then 6 months would have elapsed, which would alter the original purpose of your trip. So they understand that, and I think being flexible and telling you, okay, if your application form is older than 6 months, go ahead and complete a new one. But like I said, you must ensure that your appointment confirmation points to the correct form. I personally have been sent back, because I recall, a time where I was appearing for an interview, and then the appointment confirmation I had on my number, it wasn't in sync. And what happened? They just sent me back to go and correct that error. So what did I do? I had to go back and book a new appointment and ensure that my form actually, the updated form that I had completed was actually referenced in my appointment confirmation. So you want to ensure that you do that whenever you're completing a new visa application form. This person says, my mother has a US visa interview coming up to attend my graduation. What are her chances if she doesn't have any travel history? She has been denied a visa before. Now, when people ask questions like, oh, my mom, what are her chances? I would only be able to give you that information if I assess her, like I'm able to assess, her circumstance. I ask you questions, I'm able to know wholly. And most times it can only be done through the visa support service. But I'm not able to tell you, okay, this is your mom's chances. If you ask me this question, I'm just going to give you a general answer like, okay, her chances are 50-50, or she has been denied in the past. Well, it doesn't really matter. Was she denied by the same embassy? Has her circumstance changed before then? Most times, if you're presenting a different application and a better application, your circumstance would change completely from what it was the previous time you were denied. So it's not a case of, oh, I've been denied once before, will I be denied again? The question is, what are you doing different in this current application to ensure that you're not denied? So you don't go about asking people, what are my chances? What if I tell you your chances are 10%? How would that make you feel? No matter how bad a case is, unless maybe, terrible, where you have lied, you have been banned, there is always an opportunity for you to do better in your current application. So instead of saying what are her chances, what you should do is focus on presenting a better application to improve her chances. First, you find out what she did wrong in the first application and ensure that this second time she's doing it better. So I hope that helps. Now, this person basically just says the same thing. Should I submit the documents even if they don't ask? Like, what is the purpose? While answering that, should I show them the invitation letter or the related documents? Now, if the US Embassy wanted to see the documents that you probably had to support your application, they would actually tell you to front load those documents. But there's a reason why they request for a physical interview, and most times it is to have a dialogue. They want to see you, they want to have a dialogue, with you, because they understand that people can go and cook up all sorts of documents, but they have different procedures. And with them, it's show up for the interview. I want to have a conversation with you. So when someone is asking you, why are you going to the United States, and then you are pushing documents to them, like, that doesn't make sense. You're supposed to speak up. Why are you going? You should speak up. They don't want to see what's on paper. So when you say, okay, I'm going to visit my sister who lives in, Atlanta, and I have an invitation letter from her. Would you like to see the letter? If they want to see it, they would ask you, okay, let me see it. So that's a way to handle it. Instead of saying, okay, they ask you, okay, what are you going to do in the United States? And then you start pushing documents. There's no way for you to push documents. If they don't, because it's kind of sealed, and then the place where you have to pass documents to them is very, very narrow. So if they don't ask you for anything, you ain't pushing anything to them, they won't take anything from you. So in this case, it would just be if you really think you are trying to, you want to show them something. Oh, okay, I'm going for XYZ purpose. Would you like to see the documents, to confirm this? If they want to see, they will tell you, yes or no. So I hope that actually helps. If the visa officer asks me how long I plan to stay in the US on vacation, do I have to produce flight tickets as proof of my stay? No, you don't have to provide your flight tickets as proof of your stay now, because it is wickedness to expect somebody to pay for their ticket when they are not guaranteed the outcome of that visa, application, if it's going to be successful or not. So no, the US Embassy does not want you to make solid plans in terms of buying tickets, because if you buy your ticket, and most airlines with their very strict policies, even when they're making refunds to you, hardly would you get 100%. They still take a surcharge. So imagine that you have paid for a ticket, or maybe in this case you did not even read the fine print. You bought a non-refundable ticket, and then your visa gets denied. What do you think would happen? You would lose your money. So very few embassies, require that you pay for your ticket. Most embassies that even tell you to provide an itinerary, they want to see how you intend to route your trip, not necessarily that you have to pay for it. Some of them would even advise you not to pay, because they don't want to, they're also human beings. They don't want your visa to be denied, and then you have to deal with the consequences that are, arises from that, like maybe losing money because you had already paid for your ticket. So no, you're not required to produce a flight ticket to back up whatever option that you're providing. But of course, by the time your visa is issued and then you do travel to the US, at the port of entry, you would be required to show a return, flight ticket. And your return flight ticket has to be within the timeline that you are allowed to stay, in that country. So yes, the officer can ask, it's optional. They can choose to ask you that, okay, do you have a return ticket? I want to see the date that you leave this country. So you will not be required during the interview, but if your visa is granted and you travel at the port of entry, you may be required to show proof of your return flight ticket. I am traveling to the US with my children without my husband. Is it going to be a problem during the interview? I have traveled to other countries with the kids without my husband, like the UK, and without any issues. Of course, no, it is not a problem at all. You can travel with your children and without your husband. You can even travel alone without your husband and your children. So go ahead and apply for your visa. This person says, I intend to travel alone because my wife is not interested in traveling long hours. My question is, what can I say to the visa officer that will make sense if I'm being asked why I'm not traveling on vacation with my wife? Like, what you just have to say is the truth. Like, I'm not here to cook up reasons for people. So you've said your wife, doesn't like, she doesn't like to fly. She has a fear of flight, or she is not available to fly. It's just that simple. No one is going to be asking you why you're not traveling with your wife and children. And even if they did ask, you just tell them that, oh, your wife doesn't like to, she's afraid of flying, and then she decided not to come. So you've decided to go because you've worked hard and then you need a vacation from everything else. So there's nothing wrong with that. What if when applying for the American visa, you stated that you were working in XYZ firm, but ended up getting a new job? If you're asked what you do you say you work at this XYZ firm, or you state the name of a new place that you are working? Now, if your circumstance has changed since you completed your visa application form, certainly you should volunteer that information because it is the truth. Now, if you stick with the truth, then you will not be trying to cut corners. So if they ask you what you do, feel free to volunteer that information. Now, if they look at your visa application form and think that maybe there's something where they would ask you, okay, where did you work before that? I personally had that question before. Where did you work before that? And then, of course, I told them, I worked with just another, in my own case, it was another law firm. So you say the same thing. Tell the truth. There's no need. Don't overthink it. Just say there's nothing wrong with that. They understand that life happens, At the time you made that application, you were in one place. Now you are in another place. There's nothing wrong with that. So volunteer the truth and then just make it believable as much as possible. I hope that helps. You mentioned that if you're married, it is better to apply with your family. I thought that applying alone whilst leaving your family will increase your ties, as taking them along will give impression that you may not come back. Please clarify, as I'm planning to apply for a short tourist visa without my family. Now, if you're applying for a family vacation and you can afford to pay for your trip and you have strong ties to your home country, now you can make that application. Because if you say you're going on a family vacation, and then you have strong ties back home, yes, it's a good reason, because you also have to understand, because if these people who are interviewing you, they also used to a certain kind of culture. You would find that if you're submitting yourself to, to a particular country for them to assess you, they will be assessing you based on what they consider normal, and most times it would be their own cultural background. Now, it is only someone who has taken the extra time to understand how it works in other territories, or the territory, or based on the fact that they've seen things over and over again, how it works in your own territory, that would adapt to ensure that he or she accommodates whatever circumstance that you present. Now, what do I mean? Maybe in Nigeria you would have a lot of men who go on vacation without their wives, but abroad it is almost impossible. Let's say going to the US, it's almost impossible for you to see a man that would wake up and say, I'm going on vacation without my wife and children. So it is normal for them when you say you are going on vacation with your wife and your children, because that is a family vacation. And it even makes it very beautiful if that vacation is happening when you know that the kids will be out of school, which is, let's say, between July, August, September, when the kids will be out of school. So yes, both cases is just as good enough. If you're leaving your family behind and saying you're going on vacation, well, you would be considered based on the strength of your application, not necessarily because, okay, you have a family back home. You can't be denied even when you have your family back home. But of course, I'm saying if you're going on vacation and then you show that you're married and then you're going with your wife and then you have strong ties and you can afford it, of course you would improve your chances of getting a visa. So you shouldn't rely on your wife being your strong tie, like, okay, I'm leaving them back home to go, people leave their family and travel abroad and then go and look for ways to bring them over. So I don't know, I'm just it's not exclusive, it's not this or the other, it's just talking generally. What if you're married, how can you improve your chances? If I'm comparing both, I would tell you, you stand a better chance applying with your family than applying alone. So I hope that helps. This person says, please, I want to know if I can get my visa before I book my flight, or do I have to book my flight first before applying for a visa? Please apply for a visa before you book your flight, because you do not know the outcome. They are not going to say, okay, because you've booked your flights, come and collect visa. No, they will still deny you whether or not you have a flight itinerary. This person says, is having an invitation letter compulsory when going on vacation? The answer is no. This person says, how about in a case where a female friend of mine is inviting me to come over to the States to spend just 2 weeks with her family, and I will be staying in her family house? Please, how do I go about this? Well, the only way to go about it is to tell the truth. And then you should also have personal information about this friend. How do you know this friend? How are you connected to the friend? What is your relationship with this friend of yours? Where do they live? What do they do? Who are they? You should know. How did you meet them? You should have that information readily available, because you are going to be questioned regarding this friend that you're visiting. This person says, please, ma, as a Nigerian applying for the US tourist visa in another West African country, what are the necessary documents needed and give more tips, like give more tips. You probably would need to go watch videos on my channel, that would help you. I've been able to categorize some of these videos into a playlist. I will share it in the description box, so you can go look at the playlist and then see all the videos that are related. Now, for the US visa interview, all you need to do is to complete your visa application form. Trust me, by the time you're completing your visa application form, you realize that you have included most, if not all, the information regarding your planned trip. So the most important thing you need to do is to complete your visa application form, and do that meticulously. Don't just do it shabbily. Oh, I just need to complete. No, think about it. Read in between the lines and make sure that you're not just giving one-liners. Anywhere that requires for you to provide more information, spend your time and do that. Don't be in a hurry to complete your form. Spend time, complete your form, and provide the relevant information that you need, because you may not be required to present any additional document to actually validate or to actually support whatever you have said in that form. So your visa application form is important, and you should spend time completing it correctly. This person says, can I use a different sponsor from the one filled in my application? Now, inconsistent information is a red flag. It's common sense. Like, why, if you are assessing someone based on a particular information that they've given you, and then they come and they provide a different information, how would you react? Now, don't, when you're making a visa application, don't think that, their reaction is going to be any different from what a common man would do. It's the same thing. So if you're providing inconsistent information, unless you have you better have a good enough explanation, for doing that, and then you would only be explaining at the interview. Now, inconsistent information is a red flag, so I would not advise, you do that. Instead, it is better to complete a different visa application form and include whatever updated information that has changed. I hope that helps. So I hope that this was useful. Now, the US tourist visa usually gets a lot more questions. There's still more questions I'm going to address. So there's going to be another part to this video which I am going to share. So I hope that this particular one was useful. Now, it is important for you to leave your comments, not just for you, because I would respond to you, and then also for someone else who might need help. It is from the comments that I get that I'm able to put out these videos to actually help you. So do share with someone who needs to see this. Don't keep it to yourself. If you've learned something, share it with someone else. And then I hope that it was useful. If you liked it, hit the like button. Subscribe to my channel, because that's how I'll keep showing up on your timeline. So thank you very much for joining me, and do have a good day. Bye.